Hey YouTube, this is Funky Batman 2002. Today I'm doing something new that I've wanted to do for a while now. I'm going to do a top 10 list. I'd love it if you guys have any suggestions about what topics to cover in the future. I also would like to do lists covering movies as well, so if you guys have any suggestions for those, I'll do that as well. In fact, I would like to start doing more movie-based content on this channel. I'm currently working on a short film, and filming will be starting soon. If you would like to see that, please let me know in the comments. For my first list, I've always wanted to cover my favorite game series, the Arkham games. Since Batman Arkham Knight came out last year and was a game I've really wanted to discuss, I figured it would be perfect for this list. I'm going to be going over the top 10 disappointments of Batman Arkham Knight. A lot of you are probably saying that it was a great game and wasn't disappointing at all. Well, I have 10 reasons to prove you wrong. Warning, there will be spoilers. Also, sorry for the long introduction. Now let's get to the list. Number 10. Killer Croc. Although he was barely in the game, this has been something that has bothered me ever since Arkham Origins. Killer Croc's change in appearance. I honestly don't know what was wrong with the version from Arkham Asylum and City, but they had to change it in Arkham Origins and then again in Arkham Knight, with each version looking worse than the last. While I admit that the City and Asylum version is the least realistic looking, how realistic does Killer Croc need to be? After all, he is a giant walking, talking crocodile. You guys may not feel the same way, but this has definitely been something that has bothered me in both Origins and Knight. Number 9. The Joker. Okay, hear me out on this one. The Joker has been in every Arkham game. Every single one. And that includes Arkham Origins Blackgate. At least Arkham Knight is the first one where he isn't the main villain, but he is right there behind Arkham Knight and Scarecrow. The Joker died 3 games ago, and yet he has still been in every single one. I call that a bit of overkill. Number 8. The DLC. This wasn't that big of a deal to me because all the DLC I played was for free, but I do know that many people spent a lot of money on DLC that ended up being only 20 minutes long. Even for free, I expect DLC to last longer than that. Number 7. The Beginning. Every Arkham game, besides Blackgate, has had a memorable beginning. From Asylum's escorting Joker into Arkham Asylum, to City's Bruce Wayne getting arrested and thrown into Arkham City, and lastly to Origins chasing Black Mask through Blackgate Prison. I personally didn't like Arkham Knight's beginning. You guys may feel differently, but that's my opinion, and that's what I thought.
My little girl got out when she did. Now the real work begins.
Number 6. The boss fights. The boss fights disappointed in this game. The most memorable ones were either part of a side mission or were centered on the Batmobile, both of which I don't consider to be true boss fights. What happened to all of the creative boss fights from Asylum and City, like Scarecrow, Killer Croc, Mr. Freeze, and Ra's al Ghul? Even Arkham Origins had some memorable boss fights. Arkham Knight, unfortunately, did not. Number 5. The Twist. Before playing Arkham Knight, I read a Game Informer review that claimed that Arkham Knight had a twist you won't see coming. Obviously, the person who wrote that review isn't a Batman fan, because if you know anything about Batman, you would know that if the game keeps going over the death of Jason Todd, who really didn't die, you know he's going to show up in the game as someone Batman doesn't recognize, yet knows everything about Batman. Is that not the exact description of the Arkham Knight? Heck, the writers of the game spent half of the Harley Quinn segment going over the nightmares Batman has of Jason's so-called death. Why would the developers put that in the game if it wasn't important? Why don't you ask Game Informer? Number 4. The Batmobile. I was debating whether or not this should be higher on the list. After all, the Batmobile is brand new to the Arkham series, and yet took up, from what it felt like, 75% of the main game. And I'm specifically complaining about the tank battles. They easily took up more of the game than anything else, and were rather time-consuming and frustrating at times. It completely took away the Arkham formula fans have learned to know and love. They would have worked well as a side mission or two, but ended up becoming the bulk of the main storyline. The reason they are not higher on the list is because when I was succeeding, they were actually pretty fun. They just didn't fit well into the Arkham series, and probably would have been better in a spin-off or standalone game. After all, that is what the tank battles made Arkham Knight feel like, because I felt like I was playing a completely different game than the other Arkham games. Perhaps they should have called this game Batmobile Arkham Knight. Number 3. The Scarecrow Nightmare Missions. When I heard that Scarecrow would be the main villain in this game, I knew they would bring back the Scarecrow Nightmare Missions. After all, they were some of the best moments of Arkham Asylum. When I heard that they would be in the form of DLC, I was still pretty excited because I got the DLC for free. However, that excitement quickly wore off once I played the DLC. First of all, as I said before, the DLC is short. Each level only took a little over 5 minutes, and there were only 3 levels. Second of all, the DLC was only for the Batmobile. It was completely different than Arkham Asylum, therefore not being very nostalgic and not very fun either. You know the saying, don't fix something that ain't broke? Well, the developers of this DLC clearly haven't heard it. Number 2, the villains. Arkham City and Arkham Asylum were known for their dozens of villains and characters, and I'm not even talking about the side missions. However, Arkham Knight only had 3, Scarecrow, Arkham Knight, and the Joker. Any other big villains that you encounter are only there to introduce their side missions, so I'm not counting them. So that leaves you with only 3 villains in the whole main game. Arkham Asylum and City each easily had triple that amount of villains. No wonder there weren't any good boss fights. Before I get to the number 1 pick, there were several things that Arkham Knight actually did right that I wanted to point out. Here are 5 of them. Number 5, dual character combat. It was very fun and cool to be able to play as 2 characters instead of 1 in combat. I especially liked this because now I don't have to get DLC so that I can play as more characters than just Batman. Number 4, skins. Contrary to all previous Arkham games, you can now finally play the whole campaign with any skin you wanted. I think they showed up in cutscenes as well. It really sucks that I didn't figure this out until after I beat the campaign. Number 3, Batmobile destruction. The tank battles may have been annoying, but racing in the Batmobile sure was a blast. You could destroy anything in your path, including the corners of some buildings. I also liked the satisfaction of ramming into another car and watching it barrel roll a dozen times before crashing into something. It may have felt more like Mad Max than Batman, but when it's that much fun, I don't really care. Number 2, the Harley Quinn segment. This part of the game was all that I wish Arkham Knight was. Different environments, lots of character and story development that was heavily based on the comics, and best of all, no tank battles. It was a blast, and I wish the rest of the game was more like it. Number 1, improved Predator and combat. I loved the improvements they made to the Predator and combat modes, and I wish the game focused more on them. I loved how they focused more on interacting with the environments with environmental takedowns and usable weapons, such as bats for Batman, and I absolutely loved the Fear multi-takedowns. They just made Predator mode even more enjoyable than it already was. And now for the number 1 disappointment for Batman Arkham Knight. Number 1, the ending. The ending to the main campaign was a great ending to the game. However, it wasn't a fitting end for the Arkham series. Don't get me wrong, they couldn't have done better with the segment where you play as the Joker. However, it's what happens after that that disappoints me the most. Sure, Scarecrow's defeated, but then the Red Hood saves Batman's life from out of nowhere and then disappears just as quickly. You have no idea how the characters of the game, Gordon, Robin, Oracle, react once everything is over, and you have no idea how the people will react to Bruce Wayne being Batman. What I'm trying to say is that there's no resolution. This leads me to my next point. The Nightfall ending answers a majority of these questions and is arguably the best ending to any of the Arkham games besides Arkham City. However, you have to beat the game 100%. That includes solving every one of the Riddler's riddles. That would take a good couple of hours, none of which I'm willing to spend on such a disappointing game when I could be playing other games instead. Fans of the Arkham series deserve the best ending possible, and they shouldn't be spending hours of their time trying to achieve it. Would it have been so bad to have the Nightfall ending as the ending to the main campaign? Maybe they could have you play as Nightwing for the rest of the game so you could beat all of the side missions. All I'm saying is, many fans probably don't even know about the Nightfall ending because they don't have the time to beat the game 100%. Which is really sad because the Nightfall ending is the perfect conclusion to the Arkham series. I mean, this was the last one, right? Thanks for watching this top 10 list. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions or complaints, please say so in the comments below. Also, some of the footage from this video are from other channels. I've listed them below in the comments. Please check out their channels for great Arkham content.